Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here, recapping all the latest news and the rumors surrounding your Atlanta Falcons, starting with this guy, Russell Wilson. I know that the idea of signing Russell Wilson doesn't really get anyone excited. It doesn't get you super fired up or pumped up for the 2024 season. I understand that, and I wouldn't be either, to be fair. But we do need to have a conversation about the possibility of Russell Wilson quarterbacking this team. So let's start to unpack this. ESPN recently came out with an article where they had a bunch of their beat reporters play GM for their team. And the ESPN beat reporter for the Falcons, Michael Rothstein, he included Atlanta as a destination for Russell Wilson when he eventually gets cut by the Broncos, because there's no way Denver brings him back after benching him the last 2 weeks of the season. That would just be way too toxic of an environment in the locker room. Denver's ready to move on. I don't see how they can repair that marriage. It's a divorce, and it's finalized. Now, as for the Atlanta Falcons as a destination when Russell Wilson gets released, there has been a lot of smoke about the Falcons being a Wilson destination. On the Kay Adams show, for example, she had former NFL MVP Shaun Alexander. Never forget in The Office when Roy and Daryl traded Shaun Alexander for a defense. I'll never forget that. But Shaun Alexander on the Kay Adams show said there are some rumblings about the Denver QB Russell Wilson heading south to Atlanta. In that clip, Shaun Alexander said, "I've heard that the Falcons could be a destination for Russell Wilson." So this is the contract that ESPN cooked up for Russell Wilson going to the Falcons. 3 years, $36 million. That's an average of $12 million a season, $20 million guaranteed, and Rothstein also included a bunch of incentives. But this is the core of that contract. I'll tell you right now, nope. N-O. Nope. Not interested in anything that is not a one-year deal. I am only interested in signing Russell Wilson for a 1-year vet minimum deal. Not because he's worth that. I think he's probably worth a little bit more. If you watched the NFL this season, there was a lot of bad quarterback play. Go look at the New York Jets. They're a prime example. However, if Russell Wilson takes a vet minimum contract, well, that money is subtracted from what the Broncos owe him. It's like a college football coach buyout. But if he takes $10 million from the Falcons, well, that $10 million is subtracted from what Denver owes him. Why would he want to take $10 million from his new team and save $10 million from his old team if he's still getting the same amount of money? It's just who's writing the paycheck. So the Falcons should only sign Russell Wilson to a vet minimum deal. I'm not interested in guaranteeing $20 million so that in 2025, if they want to move on from him, just like Denver is doing right now, they've got some dead cap hits next season. 1 year only. Otherwise, we walk. Now, I can get behind Russell Wilson being an option to replace the quarterback play last season. Arthur Blank called out Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke pretty much all the way up to saying them by name during his end-of-the-year press conference, because if you put Russell Wilson on the Falcons last season, that team probably hosts a playoff game. That team probably wins the NFC South. They beat the Carolina Panthers on the road. They take care of business against the Buccaneers or the Vikings at home. They don't lose to the Cardinals on the road. Like, maybe not all 4 of those, but 2. And that would have been enough to win the NFC South. So while Russell Wilson might not scream like, let's get fired up for this upcoming season, oh no, same old Falcons, this is only a plan D type of scenario. So let me know, would you sign Russell Wilson? Yes or no? I'm not interested in Russell Wilson being my number 1 target if I'm Atlanta. But I can also live and understand a world that may very well become our reality where Russell Wilson is your best option if plan A, plan B, and plan C all fall through, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But let's give Rothstein an opportunity to kind of defend himself for giving this contract to Russell Wilson. Here's what he wrote in his ESPN article. The Falcons learned this season what below-average quarterback play can do to a franchise's playoff hopes. Owner Arthur Blank and CEO Rich McKay made it clear the plan is to win with this roster, and Wilson is the best option out there and has the most experience. The team around him would take pressure off Wilson with playmakers Bijan Robinson, Tyler Allgeier, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts all set for big roles in 2024. And the contract terms also allow for a fairly painless separation if it doesn't work out. I considered a Fields trade too, but here Atlanta retains its second-round pick and gets a quarterback upgrade on a decent deal for coach Raheem Morris. It was that last bit that I'm going to have a hard disagree with for not trading for Justin Fields, because if your argument for trading for Justin Fields is, I don't think he's a good quarterback. All right, we can have a good, fairly civil debate about that, right? We can maybe convince you otherwise, keep you on the same side, whatever. I can live with people going, I don't want to trade for Justin Fields because I don't think he's a very good quarterback. Okay, fine. If your argument is, I don't want to give up a second-round draft pick for Fields, now I've got an issue. Because no, you do not let a second-round draft pick stand in the way of a potential franchise quarterback. If you think Fields could be that next big guy, you don't let a second-rounder stop you from trading him. Let's take a stroll down memory lane, shall we? Let's look at some of Atlanta's recent second-round draft picks. Matthew Bergeron, this past season, I think he had a very good rookie year. Arnold Ebiketie took a big step forward in year 2. Richie Grant came in and now is a starting safety. Marlon Davidson, who? Gone. Isaiah Oliver, gone. Deion Jones had some really good seasons, gone. Jalen Collins, not even in the league. Gone. Rashid Hageman, gone. So, if you are afraid of trading for Justin Fields because you don't want to have the opportunity to draft the next Marlon Davidson, shame on you. Shame on you. Now, to circle back to the Russell Wilson portion of the show, I'm only interested in Russell Wilson as Plan D. And I'm not joking. I've got Plan A, I've got Plan B, I've got Plan C, and Russell Wilson is Plan D. And we will run through those plans next up on the show. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I had an absolute blast watching all the playoff games and making some money along the way. The way Prize Picks works is you pick 2 to 6 players, then choose more or less on their projected stats. So let me give you an example of what I am talking about. Take the Super Bowl. You might have heard it coming up, for example. Patrick Mahomes, I like the more on his half passing yard. I also like the more on Isaiah Pacheco at half a rushing or receiving touchdown. I feel like everyone thinks the Super Bowl is a game where the quarterbacks throw it 60 times. You're going to see the teams run the ball as well. And Isaiah Pacheco has a good nose for the end zone. I also like the more on Brock Purdy, 240.5 passing yards. Feels like there's some disrespect to a pretty good quarterback, in my opinion. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me. At least like the Patrick Mahomes one. But if you think I'm a big dum-dum, that's fine. I don't bat 1,000. Go fade me. But just do it at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I've put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, let's run through why we may end up having a situation where Atlanta signs Russell Wilson. This is my doomsday for Atlanta. They miss out on drafting one of the top 3 QBs. Caleb Williams goes number 1 to the Bears. Drake May goes number 2 to the Commanders. And Jaden Daniels goes number 3 to the Patriots. We may catch wind weeks in advance of the draft that is each of those teams' intention. I'm sure they're going to try and throw some smoke screens out there and whatnot, but that is step 1 in a doomsday for Atlanta. Step 2, Justin Fields is traded elsewhere. He goes to Pittsburgh. He goes to Las Vegas. Doesn't matter. He gets traded, but it's not to Atlanta. So now the Falcons don't have any of their top 3 preferred quarterback targets in the draft available. Justin Fields is in a different city, and Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield re-sign with their current teams. If all those things happen, well, now we need to have a conversation about what the next best options are. Let's start with the draft. In my opinion, these 5 quarterbacks are all day 2 to day 3 QB targets. Possibility that J.J. Penix or Bo Nix sneak into the end of round 1, but I think those 3 guys are destined for rounds 2 and rounds 3. Michael Pratt, longtime starter out of Tulane, he's more of a late day 3, early day 4 candidate. And then Joe Milton, an absolute cannon of an arm. I think he's going to be one of the earlier day 3 quarterbacks to go. Now, of the first 3 QBs, if I had to pick 2 of them to take some serious interest in, I would go with J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix. I used to be a decent J.J. McCarthy hater, and I don't think I've changed too much, but I can recognize that when you're in an offense that's got Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards and a bunch of all-conference offensive linemen in front of you, yeah, they might not ask you to throw the ball a ton, and so that might mean that you don't get an opportunity to showcase your skill set as much. But I think during the Combine and the Pro Day, we'll have a much better idea as to who J.J. McCarthy is as a quarterback. And as for Michael Penix, I have seen everything I need to see. I think he is an outstanding quarterback. I need to make sure that he can stay healthy in the NFL. 2 ACL injuries, 2 shoulder injuries in college, that scares the bejesus out of me. But if the medicals come back clean, I mean, Taysom Hill suffered a whole bunch of injuries early in his collegiate career, ended up working out okay for him. There are lots of great players. Nick Chubb suffered a horrible knee injury at Georgia. He ended up having a pretty good NFL career and still going right now. So it's not the end of the world, but it is definitely something to do your homework on. Now, let's talk about free agent QBs. Let's say Atlanta does their homework on those quarterbacks, and they don't think any of them are starting caliber guys. Well, I believe Russell Wilson will be released by the Broncos. So when that happens, he joins Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, Sam Darnold, and Jameis Winston among some notable free agent quarterbacks. Of those 5 guys, I think Russell Wilson is probably your best option. I feel like Gardner Minshew is lightning in a bottle where he caught it in Indianapolis, but I think he might be the next Nick Foles where it only works in Indianapolis. Like Nick Foles was only good in Philadelphia, okay? I don't know why, it's just a weird gut feeling. Jameis is fun, but I don't think he's serious. At least, also, I don't think Atlanta will be interested in bringing Jameis over after Week 18. Sam Darnold, I think, could get an opportunity to regain a starting job, kind of like Mitch Trubisky did when he went to Pittsburgh initially. Didn't really work out for him in Pittsburgh, though. So, Russell Wilson, this past season, the last 2 years in Denver, we've all gotten our jokes off about Russ. But the reality is, I think we could all agree that if Russell Wilson was on the Falcons the last 2 seasons, Atlanta simply would have won more games. Just point blank in my opinion. So, if plan A is get Jaden Daniels at number 8, and he goes number 3, and plan B is trade for Justin Fields, and he goes to Las Vegas, and plan C is to sign Kirk Cousins, and he re-signs in Minnesota, plan D, I think, is Russell Wilson. So let me know, who will start at quarterback Week 1 for Atlanta? Don't be afraid. Shoot your shot in the comment section. And then if you end up being right, we can toast to you in September of 2024. So let me know who you believe will start Week 1 for Atlanta. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate those of you that take time out of your day to come hang out with us. If you have not subscribed yet, consider going ahead and doing so. Help us reach our next milestone, 19,000 subscribers, which we are closing in on.